Welcome to the
Hello, everyone. It has been an awesome week here on the Ella Johnson Show. I am coming to you tonight live from Atlanta, Georgia, and I'm standing here with my nephew, Zeke Carter.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Ella Johnson Show.
Isn't that he is one of he's just adorable. He's one of the representatives for women at work and also for Mahogany Kids. And I believe they have to get started early, guys, being an inspirational speaker. So that was Zeke Carter from Atlanta, GA. Welcome all of you beautiful ladies to the Ella Johnson Show tonight. I think we're just going to bring everybody on here and just have a good time tonight. How about that? As you can tell, guys, we have a full house here. I invited people to come onto the broadcast. As you know, we have had a full week of domestic violence stories. And tonight we have another story from Tessa. She's joining us and she's going to share with us about her ride with domestic violence, but also how it has changed her life, and she's really turning it around for good. Welcome to the broadcast, Tessa.
Thank you for having me.
She's a new mommy.
Yes. Well,
And-
I have a 7-year-old, but I do have a newborn.
She's a new mommy for the second time. How about
For
that?
the second time.
Willow, and Willow may join us later, guys. I hope that she does, but Tessa is joining us, and she's in Arizona, and she's doing a lot of wonderful things right now, but I want you guys to meet her. Welcome to the broadcast, Tessa.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be on.
Well, guys, one of the ladies that, before we get started, because I think it's a really wonderful thing to usher in the power of God and to make sure that we are coming at this. So Lainey wanted to come on the broadcast tonight because she wanted to pray for all of our domestic violence survivors for the week and for this, and to just kind of set us on a new path. So you can take it from here now, Lainey.
Thank you so much. First of all, I just want to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, that you overcame something that tried to take you out. And I don't know, I haven't got to hear all the stories yet, but I want you to know that I'm so proud of you, and I'm honored to be part of this program with you. So, Father, I come to you in the name of your son, Jesus, and God, you see these overcomers that are sitting on this panel. Father, I want to thank you for their life. I want to thank you for their purpose that you have for them. And God, they may not have seen it at the time, but every wound, every scar, every pain they felt, it was not wasted, God, because you turned it around and you used it for their good and for your glory. And God, I am asking you to continue to heal them, their hearts, God, put it back together with your peace, Lord, in the name of Jesus. And God, I'm asking if there's any relationships that were destroyed because of this, that you will restore them, God, because you are the only one that can. And God, the biggest thing that I ask that you help them to do is free them and give them the gift of forgiveness. It's not something that comes easily, and it's not something that comes overnight, but God, I want you to free them of everything. And Lord, I ask you to keep continuing to use them as a voice and an advocate for everybody else, so they can see that they don't have to stay in an abusive relationship. And I thank you, Father, for everything. And thank you for allowing me to be here. In Jesus' name, amen.
I love it. I love it. That's awesome. Now, what I want to do, guys, because I want to really focus on our story for tonight, which is Tessa. I'm going to put you guys, Simonia, also, Simonia's here. Hi, I love your name, Simonia Montgomery. And she was just such a beautiful soul. She's been watching the broadcast, and she just wanted to share some stuff with us too during the broadcast. So for right now, let's talk to Tessa, and I want you guys to stay, and I'm going to bring you back on, Lainey and Simonia, okay? Is that good?
Sure.
All right.
Absolutely.
All right. All right, Tessa. Well, listen, you are the founder of Face of a Survivor. You have been in lots of magazines with your story. And of course, you're beautiful and you look like some star that I know. I'll figure it out before the broadcast is over.
You'll have to get back to me and let me know.
I will definitely have to do it. I mean, because you really do. And I'm just honored to have you with us tonight to share your story with us. So for our viewers, oh, and I forgot. How could I forget the beautiful Carla, my co-host? You have just been the best co-host this week. I mean, I am so honored to have you because, guys, those of you that don't know, Carla has a story that will move you. And I wanted to bring her on because she knows way better than I do about what women and men have suffered as domestic violence, survivors. And she's here to kind of usher us into this week. And she's done an excellent job.
Well, thank you,
You
Ellen.
really have.
Thank you. I've loved being here. This has been a great, great week. So,
all right, Tessa. So tell us about your abuse.
So, well, I was a child of abuse. My sister and I both were. I have a sister that is 11 years older than I am, and she was basically my protector.
Wow.
She endured more abuse because she wanted to protect me more. And of course, when I was younger, I didn't know what was happening was abuse. I thought that was life. So that's just it's natural. It's what happens. It's what families go through, kind of a thing. So I didn't necessarily know that there was a name to it. But my sister was very, very protective growing up. So my sister and I didn't really have like a sibling relationship. It was more maternal. My sister was very, very maternal
wow.
towards me.
Mhm.
And whenever she had the chance, she would take me out of the abusive situations, the toxic situations in our household. But on my mother's side of the family, we have pedophiles, we have murderers. And on my dad's side of the family, we have racism, chauvinism, I mean, you name it. And I come from a Latin mother and a white father. So holidays, if you can imagine, were very, it was very demeaning as a child, especially going with my dad's side of the family. But growing up, my sister and myself and my cousins, we were told we don't talk about it. The
Yeah.
stuff that was happening within our family, we were told we don't talk about it. We don't air our family's dirty laundry. It's a burden to others, and people don't want to be friends with people that are a burden. So there was that was placed on us of, you don't want to lose friends, you don't want to look bad, you don't want to make the family look bad. And they would instill that in us at a very, very young age. So not knowing what was happening, I, of course, your parents are your parents, and they're your role models. They're your mentors, and you expect them to protect you and be there for you and know right from wrong and yada, yada, yada. But yeah, we endured several different forms of abuse. And I had several family members attempt suicide. I also attempted suicide when I was 22 years old. But that it was, after the childhood abuse and then ending up in abusive relationships, because that's what I knew.
Right.
And it was my normal. So it was my lifestyle. And I didn't think I deserved any better. I thought what I had was what I was supposed to have and what I was supposed to endure and go through. And unfortunately, I'm not the only person that felt that way or has gone through stuff like that. This is something that more people endure than people realize. So, and a lot of abuse does happen within the family, and it's hush hush. So for me to, step up and talk to somebody about it, that wasn't a thing. Asking for help wasn't a thing. So you just don't do that. You turn to your parents or your family, your blood, that is supposedly supposed to be there for you and look out for you and all of that stuff. So I didn't talk to teachers. I didn't talk to my friends or my friends' parents about it. Like, it was very, very hush hush. So,
But the family members knew. People within the family knew what was going on.
absolutely.
So what was, can you give us a little idea of what was going on in the family without giving all the detail?
Oh yeah. I mean, I would have, I had cousins that were attempting to, and I just so you know, like, I'm the baby of the family. So like, I had older cousins that were attempting suicide and going into hospitals, and the other family members were trying to hide like what was going on and not tell the doctors and psychologists and all of that stuff. I mean, even my sister, she attempted suicide when she was 12, I believe. I think she was 11 or 12 years old, or maybe she was 13.
What did she
but-
do? If you don't mind my asking, what did she do?
For attempting,
Yeah,
I can't remember what she tried. But for myself, it was pills.
right.
But for her, I can't remember what it was. But she ended up in the hospital. And
Your teachers or any of your friends' parents, doctors, did anyone recognize this pattern of behavior with all of your family members?
no, because a lot of the stuff was not reported.
Yeah.
But when my sister was admitted to a hospital, there was a doctor that had suggested to my mother that my sister see a therapist or a psychologist, and my mother denied that.
Embarrassed.
So,
She was embarrassed.
yes,
Yeah.
and also I think denial.
Denial. Wow.
It could have been both. So, but yeah, as I got older, my sister would share things with me, and it was as if my parents were trying to put us against each other. And I remember my mother saying to me, "Oh, when you're younger, things seem to be bigger than they actually are. So she remembers it as this, but it really was this." So
Right.
there was a lot of gaslighting, which is a form of abuse. But
Manipulation of perception. That's always
absolutely, yes. And so again, even as when I was a very, very young adult, mind you, very young mentality as a young adult, because I was very sheltered too. My sister, because of I think the age gap, we were raised differently, and I was extremely sheltered. And I think it was because my parents didn't want me to see the outside and the help that was out there. My mother was the inflictor, and that's something she grew up with. So she continued the cycle. And of course, my
So your
father,
mom was abused. You think your mom was abused?
she was absolutely abused.
She was abused.
Her father
Wow.
was abusive. He was also an alcoholic. I never met him, so I don't know him personally because he was so abusive. But they took that aspect out of my life. But they also took other aspects out of my life too that were that to help with my growth. And there was a lot of limitations put on my growth and stuff. So growing up in childhood and adolescence.
But let me ask you a question, Carla. If her mother would it not be normal for mom to want to protect Tessa?
I would say so. Sorry, my toddler just got up. I would say
Okay.
I mean, to me as a parent, I mean, that's absolutely what you want to do is protect your children. And I mean, and my parents did that for me. And, you know, that is very much, I think, just as a parent, exactly what you would think that would happen in that sort of situation. But a lot of times, though, this generational cycle of abuse, that does not happen because things being passed down from generation to generation. And like you said, you don't air dirty laundry, you keep it in the family. And that is very much a big, big part of why domestic violence is so successful. Because not only are you isolating socially, but also within your own family.
Right, exactly.
What led you to want to commit suicide, Tessa?
I was in an abusive relationship, and I was hearing the same exact things from my abuser that I was hearing from my mother. I'm not good enough. I need to stop eating. I had gotten in a car accident. I was hit by a drunk driver, and I was a dancer my whole life. And that accident actually took me out of that career. Right. So because of that, I put on a little bit of weight. I was not obese by any means. I became curvy, but I was not obese by any means. But my mother would tell me to stop eating. My abusive boyfriend at the time would tell me, well, why can't you look like her? So I didn't feel like I was good enough. I felt like I was a burden. And I felt like the only way to end any of this was to end my life. And I attempted, we had a house together and he wasn't home. And so I was like, there's beer in the fridge and we have tons of pills. So that's how I was going to do it. And so I was in our bathroom and I had the pills scattered on our counter in the bathroom, and I had 3 beer bottles. And I don't like beer. It was his beer, and I was going to drink his beer. I didn't care. And I took 3 pills, and then my phone rang. It was my dad, and I said, you know what? Just for shits and giggles, I'll answer the phone, say hi, bye, and then I'll continue with ending myself. Right. That was what I was thinking. Uh-huh. And I wasn't upset that I made that decision. It's just like an everyday kind of a thing where I was like, this sounds pretty good. It'll be fine. I'll be fine. I'll be able to get off the phone and continue. But it was the phone call. It was my dad. it was the phone call that stopped me because of what he said to me. Because my abuser had isolated me from everybody, friends, family, and all I could do was work. That was it. Because it brought in extra income, so that way he could pay for his drugs and his alcohol. And so I answered the phone, and my dad said, "Hey, Tessie, we're having a barbecue tomorrow. We haven't seen you in a really long time. We'd like to see you. You should come over." Hearing his voice, hearing him say that we want to see you, and we want you to come over, it was so foreign to me, but there was a familiarity at the same time, like, oh my gosh, like I kind of miss this, like this familiarity. And so I paused. I didn't say anything. I was feeling, I was processing the feeling. And then he's like, "Are you still there?" I go, yeah, I'll be there. I'll see you tomorrow. And then I hung up. And right when I hung up, I looked at myself in the mirror. I go, "Tessa, what the hell are you doing?" It was like it's something clicked. And I think it was because of the missing my father's voice on top of hearing "we want to see you," because my abuser was saying to me, "No one wants to hang out with you. Nobody wants to see you. Nobody wants to be your friend. You're lucky that you're in my life. So you're lucky you have me." So I felt like.
So at that moment, were you starting to turn it around the way you were thinking and seeing yourself?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was your turning point, right?
That was my point of, okay, so I need to do something different. So I wasn't strong enough to leave the relationship yet. I wasn't strong enough to do that yet. But I had told myself, because I started crying, and I went and laid on the bed and was just crying and thinking to myself, okay, if I'm going to stay in this relationship, because I knew I wasn't going to leave, if I'm going to stay in this relationship, I need to do something for my sanity, or else I'm going to end my life indefinitely. So I was thinking about it, and like, what is it that truly makes me feel good? Like, what is it that really makes me happy? And the one thing that I could think about, and I kid you not, but the one thing that I can think about was animals. That was the only thing that kept popping in my head was animals, animals, animals. Because growing up, we had a bunch of animals. We took in so many rescues. I would turn to those animals for comfort when anything bad would happen within our family, and they were there unconditionally. And that was the one thing that I just couldn't stop thinking about. It was animals. So I was like, I'm going to work with animals. That's what
I
I'm
think
do.
God will use whatever he needs to use to get to us. He was working for your good at that time. He wanted to save your life. And it seems to me that this man, and it sounds like this is just a recurring thing, Carla, that they use their words to hurt. This mental abuse. We've learned this week that it's not just the physical abuse, but it's the mental abuse.
Mental, financial. And my attorney, when I finally was becoming free, and I had been estranged for almost 2 years. And I remember showing my attorney text messages, that were 3 years old. And he said, "This is emotional terrorism." And that has stuck with me for so long. And that is exactly what it is. It is emotional terrorism. And
That's true.
they use it so well.
That sounds like the title of a book. I'm just saying. It really does. That sounds like the title of a book. I like it. I'm not going to write it.
I like that.
But yeah, I like that. But I mean, so Tessa, what was it that, is he still around? I mean, what happened with this guy?
Oh, I don't know. I have no idea what's going on.
He's like, I stopped checking for him. I'm doing my thing now, right?
No longer exists.
I have no idea what he's doing now. When we broke up, we had actually broken up because he cheated on me and he got the woman pregnant. So
I would have been glad for that, right? I'm just saying.
I hope for the best for the person that, he got pregnant and his child. I have thought about, like, I hope that they're okay. I genuinely hope they're okay, because I'm sure he's manipulated things and gaslighted, and because I know how he was with me, And he would say sorry, and then he would be okay, and then he would do it again, and then I'm sorry, and then he'd be okay, and then, the cycle. And so I hope that it's healthy and that he has turned a new leaf.
Yeah.
I mean, I have no idea where he's at this point in his life and how his family is, but
based on everything that we've learned this week, do we think that a lot of times these guys that inflict this abuse on other women, that they've suffered some type of abuse themselves? I'm not trying to make excuses for them, but it's like,
I think, in my opinion, and I don't know the psychology behind it. I mean, I've talked to many, many therapists about, abuse and what's happened, but I think there are different types of abusers. I mean, I think there are people who, people who've had bad things done to them do bad things to people. I think that definitely exists. And then I also think, though, that some people are just born evil and some people are just rotten. My ex-husband is just awful. He's just an evil person. He's a sociopath, narcissist, an abuser, con artist. I think some people are just born that way. And he grew up very privileged, very well, which is half of what is wrong with him. He's been enabled his whole entire life. But, I think some people are just born bad.
Right.
No matter what their raising is. And, we've had to talk about nature versus nurture. And, it really, some people are just born bad. So I do think there's different types of abusers.
Right.
Well,
guys, so Tessa, tell us what you're doing now. How do you turn all of this around to work for you at this point in your life?
Well, I have Face of a Survivor, and we have 3 different divisions. We have our coaching division, our ambassadors division, and then we do events. And some of the events that we do is called Cuddle Buddies. So you know how I said that I wanted to work with animals? Well, I'm working with animals. So we have an event called Cuddle Buddies where we work on like a therapeutic aspect where they can cuddle with the fur babies, is what I like to call them. But Face of a Survivor has actually collaborated with an agency here in Arizona called Alliance of Therapy Dogs. And so what we do is the handlers come and bring their animals, their dogs, and anybody that comes can cuddle with these dogs while also working on whether it has to do with their personal issues, professional issues. They can do different things like vision boards. And so there's like that artistic thought about it, but also setting goals for themselves and interacting in a healthy manner with other people that are there, and also being able to safely express themselves in the events as well too, if they want to share or listen to. So, and then we also do one where it's focused more on children, where we do like story time, we do art stuff, where they create something that is very symbolic, just like creating a flower or something where they bloom and stuff like that, and being able to express themselves openly as well, understanding that they have a voice and that their voice matters and that they are allowed to use it. So being able to have that, I love the Cuddle Buddies. I honestly have a place in my heart for animals because I feel like animals helped me get out of my dark place.
Come on now.
And there's such a therapeutic aspect to fur babies that a lot of people don't necessarily understand. But I mean, there's therapy dogs for a reason.
Right.
There's emotional support animals for a reason.
Right.
So there really is a therapeutic aspect for it. So
do they have names? What are the fur babies' names?
Oh, there's several different ones. So it's not necessarily the same service animal each time. It's whatever handler is available and they can come. So the agency will send whoever is available to the events. So yeah,
you should get somebody to illustrate the fur babies and have coloring books. So whenever you have families that have children that are victims, that are part of the domestic violence, that they can become familiar with the fur babies, whether it's be in person or with a coloring book. And it kind of brands the fur babies too. I love it. I love it.
What a great idea.
Well, that's what happens when women get together,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Well, listen, I have so many people that are, people are joining the broadcast, guys. Let's bring on some folks that want to come in, and let's see who is.
Hi, ladies.
Hi.
Everybody. My child is having lots of fun tonight. Hey, girl.
Hi.
Hi, everybody.
Hi. Hi, Jen.
Wow, this is like the reunion for the week, right?
Yes.
I love that all of you guys came on. We have Tessa, we have Carla, we have Lainey, we have Jennifer. Guys, and Simonia. Everybody is here. This is awesome. Listen, I just have to give you guys a very short story about Jennifer. Jennifer is my girl because Jennifer is the person who basically put me in touch with all of y'all. She is the one that got it going. Or in other words, or in other terms, she's the one that got it popping. Okay? She did that. She did, because she's the one that introduced me to you, Carla, and Crystal. And she has been the person behind the scenes bringing all of this together. And I thought it was just fitting for her to come on tonight, so she can say hi, and let's wrap up this week. How have you been enjoying the week, Jennifer?
Oh, in regards to life or in regards to the show?
Well, life, the show, love, everything. How has it been for you this week?
It's been quite intense. I've actually been watching a lot of the shows as well, and I've seen there's just so much inspiration and just a reminder of why I do what I do, and I have a lot of gratitude for everybody that has come into my life. I know, like when I met Tessa and became an ambassador at Face of a Survivor, I was going through a pretty tough time in my life, and in 2018, and she's just been really supportive and very inspiring, and Carla and Crystal and everyone else, it's just been really inspiring, and again it reminds me like why I do what I do, and why I connect with people like them. So
Well, I think you are all very inspiring. How has it been for you, Simonia, this week, and watching the broadcast? And
well, I think the broadcast has been very inspiring. The fact that, people are able to overcome. That's like so important, to be able to press through. And, everybody wants a testimony, but there's no testimony without a test.
Preach, girl, preach. Yes, absolutely. I love that. Girl, take the glasses off. You don't need to see.
Right. Yeah.
We're too cute to see, right? Because I'm blind as a bat. But listen. So tell me, Simonia, you said that you wanted to add some information to the broadcast, just some things you observed. What did you want to add?
Well, one of the things, as Tessa was saying, when you endure abuse as a child, it makes you more susceptible to endure abuse as an adult. When you do not get the healing or the counseling or the support that you need, and you find yourself going through the same cycle. I remember quoting, I am an ordained pastor, and I remember quoting the Bible and saying, train a child up in the way you want them to go, and they shall not go astray. Because I found myself in what I saw. I found myself in a domestic violence situation that I loved my abuser more than I loved me. And all I wanted to do was to make it right. But it was also what I grew up with. It was what I grew up seeing. And so something I just posted, a lot of times we look at women, everyone on this broadcast are just beautiful women, and we look at We look at women on the outside and we think that they have it all together.
Amen.
We don't know what they're going through on the inside, what they're battling. And honestly, the physical abuse is the least of it. It's the emotional abuse that stays with you for years to come. When the bruises heal, when the bones are repaired, when you're out, it's still that psychological abuse that weighs on you, that makes you feel like you don't deserve any better. And until you get the help that you need, you'll find, I've seen women go back to, they get out of one abusive relationship and they go to the next abusive relationship. And on the outside, we're looking at them like, what's wrong with you? But the problem is we're asking the question, the right question in the wrong way.
Oh, yeah.
We're asking the question as an accusatory. What's wrong with you? When really it needs to be, what's wrong? Let me help you. How can I help you overcome and be able to find a better way, to live your life? And we have to stop being so judgmental and begin to help one another, because that's the only way we're going to make it.
Let me ask all of you a question. You guys have watched a lot of the stories this week and you've heard how the system failed them. Are you guys all of like mind that the system needs help?
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So you
Tessa and I were
understand?
talking about that not long ago.
Yeah.
Especially here in Harris County, it's, until a person is
Dead.
until they're dead, then, there's nothing that's done. And it was, when you had Melanie on a few weeks ago and hearing her daughter's story,
That one gets me.
that's one of the that's an example, unfortunately. And, who is there, who's going to hold these people accountable? Not only the perpetrators, but also the people that are allowing these perpetrators to keep on victimizing victims.
Yeah.
So let me bring you guys up to speed for those of you that don't know who she's talking about. Melanie was one of my guests. Her daughter was stabbed 20 times in the stomach by her abuser. She was finally going to do the right thing, call the police, and just start her life and do better. And he got out on a PR bond. I'm sorry, say again, Carla?
She was pregnant too, right?
She was pregnant. She was
pregnant.
pregnant, and he was arrested and he was released on a PR bond. And when he got out, he came back to the apartment and stabbed her 20 times. And his reason was he didn't want someone else raising his child, and killed her.
And killed her. She was 22?
22 years old. Latoya Wells was on the broadcast talking about her 21-year-old daughter who was killed by her 20-year-old boyfriend. She had been telling the cops, he's going to kill my daughter. He's going to kill my daughter. You got to do something. And that's exactly what he did. And not only did he kill her, but he had shot her and she was still alive. He pulled her out of the car as if he was going to help her and shot her in the head.
Oh my.
On the side of the street, guys. 21 years old.
Because it's not taken serious.
Yeah.
They're, what happens? The police are called, and what is the abuser? The first thing they do, oh, she's crazy. I didn't touch her. I didn't do anything to her. And, unfortunately, when a person is dealing with trauma and, PTSD or complex PTSD, what can happen is you appear to be crazy because you're reacting to abuse.
Right.
And that comes, that comes with the lack of education in law enforcement and other officials, because if they were more educated, then they would be able to recognize the victim is not crazy. They're reacting to abuse.
Right.
My cousin.
Their trauma.
Yeah.
My cousin was the police, and she was shot 5 times by her boyfriend. 2019. Yeah, and she was the police, and he claimed self-defense. So that was a very hard. I don't know how you shoot somebody point blank range 5 times and claim self-defense. It's just
And see,
crazy.
and I said this earlier this week. It is not only a justice system issue; it is a man versus a woman issue. what you just said, that your husband's or that your cousin's boyfriend shot her at point blank range 5 times, claimed self-defense, and there are women all over this country who are doing life in prison,
In
for
prison.
documented abuse against their abusers. Documented.
Yes.
And they are doing
Yeah.
life in prison. This is not just a justice system issue. This is a societal issue of man versus woman. When male police officers show up to a scene and there's a female in there, they ask, "What did you do to piss them off?
Exactly. Yes.
What happened?" It's they automatically blame the
Assume.
woman, and they assume immediately. And I mean, I've called the police countless times. And the last time before my door was kicked in and I was held hostage, 2 male police officers showed up and would not make him leave. I had been estranged from him for almost 2 years at that point. You know, my kids were in the house. I had multiple police reports. He was not on the lease. He didn't even have a driver's license for that state. And they would not make him leave because they're like, "Well, he's your husband." No, he's not. It's a technicality. Get him off of my property. And they didn't do it. And a week later, they held me hostage for 9 hours. It is so much. I mean, it's crazy to me that can even happen. But it does every single day. Every day this happens.
Right.
So what are you thinking, Lainey? You're sitting there, you're just like shaking your head. What are you thinking, dear?
I mean, you all, you've been through a lot. The lady that you spoke about, Melanie, did you say that was her daughter that got stabbed?
Yes, that was her daughter.
I've been abused myself. I'm an overcomer of abuse and molestation from my ex-stepdad, and raped by my best friend's husband, who was involved in the whole thing as well. But I'm going to tell you, it was nowhere near what you all have been through. It wasn't to that extreme, I guess. I know all abuse is bad. It shouldn't be leveled. Well, you worse than me, but wow, I'm telling you again, I'm very honored. I'm very humbled to be sitting here with you all. And I'm thankful. And I have to tell you, I don't even know how I found Ella. I've never met her. It happened, I think, the other night. I don't know what I was doing. I know it was God, though, because he seems to connect me to people,
Amen.
you know, when I pray about it. And I got to tell you, the poem that I did that last weekend. And I was sitting here and I just, God put like domestic violence survivors or overcomers and human trafficking. And I'm very big on, let me tell you that. And I just sat here and I said, okay, Father, I need you to like, just drop the words, let it come out. And when he started speaking and I put it onto paper and I read that, I was like, wow, you know, because the tears were silent, you know.
Right.
I'm sure you all sat in your room a lot of times, and the bathroom, wherever you could be, cried, wanted help, didn't understand why you were going through that. And Tessa, when you were sharing your story and you were talking about trying to commit suicide, I actually at that one time, which he didn't actually do any abuse to me in any way. He never put his hand on me. I just wanted the attention that he wasn't giving me. So I went in the bathroom and was going to, you know, kill myself, and took a whole bottle of pills. And then I come out and I threw the bottle at him and I said, hey, can you call? I said, I just took these. And he picks up the bottle. He goes, oh my God, that's to slow my heart rate down. And then I started screaming, call an ambulance, get me to the hospital. Yeah. And I'll never forget, the nurse came in and they made me drink this charcoal stuff. And I felt myself. I knew I was dying. And I was begging the nurse to help me, and she said, there's nothing else we can do for you. But I know that was my mom praying for me. But that wasn't even over abuse from him. I think what it stemmed from, though, is the abuse I got before. And I felt like he was a good guy. You know, why aren't you paying attention to me? So, but you've overcome a lot, you all have. And I know, sorry, I have on my, Simonia, did I say your name right?
Yes.
Okay. You said your cousin was shot 5 times, is that right? Yeah. So, you know, I know that's got to be difficult for you as well, you know, because you feel like you should have been able to do something. That, what did I miss? Why wasn't I able to help her? Why didn't I know what was going on? But see, another thing too is I think so many times even family members hold their self responsible, and that wasn't your fault.
Mm-mm.
It wasn't. And I feel you need to know that it was not your fault.
Absolutely.
You know.
And one of the reasons, ladies, that we do these types of broadcasts is because there are family members right now watching that they have family that's suffering in silence. People just don't talk about this. And I hope that if we didn't get any message across to you this week, that we got the message to not be silent anymore. Yep. It's time to make a plan and get out. We've heard lots of things this week, like have a plan in place, find people you can trust. Can we always trust the church? Is that a place where we can go?
No.
Well, I wasn't expecting
preacher says
such
no.
an overwhelming response. I was thinking maybe you guys would have thought about it, prayed about it.
No.
Wow.
You know,
okay.
Ella, can I say something about that comment you just asked?
Yes.
I'm sorry, but I couldn't help but laugh. So I'm going to share very quick my experience. I was molested by my ex-stepdad when I was 7 years old, and I waited a year to tell. And in that time, my mom started going to church, and I told her, and she made him leave. And when we went into the pastor to let him know, he looked at my mom and said, "You have to forgive him or you're going to go to hell." So she took him back. It kind of damaged our relationship. He never did anything to me again, and what he felt was not dirty in his mind, but walking in on me in the bathroom and stuff, you know, when it's like, get out. So, but I want to tell you that it was probably about 7 or 8 years ago. I was a guest host on Blog Talk Radio sharing my story. And the girls that came on after that I got to pray for, I won't forget the one. She got pregnant by the pastor. He raped her. And she felt like it was her fault. And she said she felt like she's been in a cage, you know? So what I'm not understanding about the church is this: why is not anybody seeing this and picking up on it?
Right.
And knowing, I mean, these are pastors. I mean, why are the church members, why do you not know this? How can you not know this?
A majority of them
Let me
do.
say-
It's unfortunate. A lot of
Let
them
me
are
say
actually, they do know what's happening. My father was an ordained minister.
Wow.
I have family members on my mother's side of the family that are pedophiles, abusers, murderers. And guess what? They were all aiding and abetting. So, and it's because if they get caught, they're going to get in trouble too. So then they're saving their butt because they feel like they have to save someone else's butt. It's a cycle that, like that generational thing. If it's something that you're so used to seeing or being involved with or enduring on a daily basis, that's a lifestyle. And a lot of people don't necessarily know how to get out of it because it's that generational pull. But the thing is there's so many people that have heard these stories like this and like, oh my gosh, okay, so I went through that. Wait, I didn't know that was a form of abuse. And then it starts to click. More things start to click. Like, for instance, I actually started to go to therapy But it was because I was kind of forced into it. I got out of my abusive relationship and I got into another abusive relationship, but I justified it because at least he wasn't physically harming me. But there was still different forms of abuse that were happening. Well, he had a 2-year-old daughter, this new relationship. He had a 2-year-old daughter. Her biological mother did drugs. And there were 4 children in the home. The oldest daughter told her teacher that her mother did drugs. So then that teacher who they have to report it. Oh my gosh.
Mandatory.
Mandated reporter. They're mandated reporter. They have to report that. So CPS went into the home, found the drugs, took the girls out, and had to disperse them. Had to disperse them to their fathers. They all had different fathers. And my boyfriend at the time was one of them. Well, all those fathers had to do a drug test, and my boyfriend at the time failed. So then CPS turned to me and said, we see the bond that you have with his daughter. We want to put her in your care or else she's going to go into the foster system. Like, okay. Of course, I had to be drug screened. My house had to, a social worker had to come to my house and see my house and interview me and in order for me to have his daughter. But with that, when CPS gives you someone else's child, you get benefits. Well, one of those benefits is free therapy for you and the child. So I took it. I took that. So that's how I started my therapy. Then I started to learn more of like child psychology and the different forms of abuse. And then things started to click for me. I'm like, holy crap, like this is insane. Like I went through this. And so then things started to click. I was seeing red flags with my mother. I was like, oh, so this is what they're talking about.
Wow.
This is making sense now. And so then the things that came popping back to me was what my sister would say to me. And I brushed it off because my mother would say, oh, she's just making a big deal than it really was.
Wow.
Right.
So that's how more things started to click with me and understanding, okay, so this behavior, I'm seeing what's happening right now. She's gaslighting, which I didn't know was a form of abuse. And so then the whole gaslighting thing, I was like, okay,
That cycle.
all right, mom, okay.
Yeah.
So eventually I chose to take my parents out of my life. I was 29 years old. I took both my parents out of my life because my mother was threatening to kill my father.
Why?
And she was being very, because she wasn't getting what she wanted.
Wow.
She didn't like how things were going. So she was threatening, and it wasn't the only time she had threatened to kill him. And she was very descriptive about it too, on how she was going to kill him.
Wow.
And so I looked at my father, I'm like,
Jesus.
why do you put up with this? I said, Dad, if you want to divorce her, I back you up on that.
Right.
I go, why do you stay with her? He goes, I don't know. She's just a part of me.
Wow.
That's part of the manipulating and the psychology of
Esmeralda, turn that
the different
down.
forms of abuse and like how it really gets into someone and embeds in them. Like he didn't know how to disengage.
Right. Well, you know,
I
and
want to.
right too, because like you go through when you have your parents and you're watching your parents, and I was lucky. I mean, my parents, they co-parented really, really well. With my first husband, my son's dad, he and I co-parent really well. We're great friends. We communicate really well. And that is like one hope for my children is I want them to see that. And of course, my girls, their biological father, my ex-husband, he's nowhere in the picture. He's not legally around us. He's absolutely gone. And I wanted that. I fought for that because I knew he would never be stable enough to be a part of their life. He would always use them, gaslight them, manipulate their perception. He would always do way more damage. And I had somebody say, well, you know, you've like the dads have a right to be in their life. Not them. Nope, not them. They don't get that right.
Not those, right?
Taken away. And me as their mother, I'm going to make that decision for them. And I hope that, you know, and I'm not saying all kids need to be ripped from their fathers, but if their father is abusive to their mother, they are therefore abusive to their children, and they are not good parents. And if you can't love and respect the mother of your children, no matter your disagreement, you know, and if you're showing your child that it's okay to treat a parent that way, You know, and it doesn't mean that they have to be completely absent. My case was much more severe and different than that. But, you know, it's not as if when you're allowing your kid to go be with an abusive ex, and it's that manipulation and the gaslighting and just the emotional and mental abuse. I mean, that is typically inflicted upon the child as well. And it's not maybe as intentional, but it can be there. And so therapy for your kids, maybe having some sort of like group visitation or supervised visitation until you're comfortable enough. And I think it's, you know, some parents, and it happens with dads too. I mean, mothers can do the same thing with the fathers. Like that is, it's not just, this doesn't just happen to a man. Women can do this to men as well. And it's, that's a really fine line of trying to figure out the best way to co-parent your child when you have to. I am, of course, again, my situation is completely different. I don't have to co-parent with him. That right has been taken away from him because of his own actions, and that's not my shame. That's his. He has 4 children along, you know, so it has rights. None of them. It's not a me thing. It's a him thing. And, you know, and I think that is something that we as women really have to not let society sort of inflict upon us about how we have to do this and we have to do that. It's okay to be skeptical until you're comfortable enough to let your kids, especially little kids, to go weekends, overnights, or nowadays they do a lot of 50-50 parenting. And, you know, that's hard. That's really hard as a parent. And, you know, I hope that some of the programs, and there's not a lot of programs, those kind of programs are hard to come by. And that's why a lot of times guardian ad litems are put in place to fight for the rights of the children and to represent the child. But hopefully more and more people, as they are aware, know that it does not just affect the actual victim in that partnership. It's a huge, huge traumatizing effect on the child as well. And that is another form of domestic violence. I mean, that's even if it's emotional, mental, whatever, it doesn't have to just be physical with the child. That's still a form of abuse.
Right.
And it lasts forever. I mean, that's how generational abuse happens. That's exactly how it happens.
Simonia, you were trying to say something? Did you want to add something to that?
No, I want to go back to your original question about the church.
Okay.
The church is made up of people, just like the world is. And so a lot of times the church is not equipped to do it because there's no training put forth in the church most times. And you're depending on the compassion of a person. When you spoke about being that your mother was told to forgive, I think the thing is the misconception around forgiveness. I do believe that we should forgive. I personally, just for me, don't have to be for anybody else, I don't think that there's anything that's unforgivable. But forgiving a person does not mean allowing them back into your circle. Forgiving a person means that they no longer have any control over you. They no longer have the power to make the tears flow or to create a bad day from memories of what they've done. You take back your power from them. That's what forgiveness is for me. It's not about, you know, giving the person another opportunity to hurt you. There's a saying, the first time you hurt me, shame on you. The second time you hurt me, shame on me. Because I knew who you were and I allowed you back. And do not get me wrong, everything is a case-by-case basis. You have people who mess up, make bad decisions, see the errors of their ways, and change. Then you have people who manipulate, lie, pretend, and go in and do it again and only do it worse. It's about knowing, you know, who it is. The church, there's church hurt that runs so deep with so many things, you know, but we have got to remember the church is made up of people.
Yeah.
Very good point.
Everyday common people.
Very good point. Very good point. Now, for those of you that watched the broadcast this week, you guys remember Tommy. He was on probably midweek, and Tommy was talking about how his ex-wife was getting all of his money. And that has just truly stuck with me because
Yeah.
poor guy, he suffered enough by being abused by her, which of course we all know now that men are abused, they suffer too. They cry too. And he was proof of that. He and Charlie were on the show together. How do you feel about the fact that she's getting all of his money? That she's getting his income tax checks. She's getting his unemployment. She's getting his stimulus checks. How do you guys feel about even an accident he was in? She's getting that too. How do you feel about that?
That whole
Good
that
Lord.
just kind of is mind blowing to me. And I wanted to ask him. I'm actually going to talk to him again on Monday. Him and I have a call set up for Monday because I was like, I have so many questions for him. Because he was just like an amazing, beautiful soul, and I was like, I want to talk to you more and really kind of have that real one-on-one discussion with him. But I would love, like one of the questions I want to ask him is like, was he in arrears? I mean, that happens, but the amount of money that he has had to pay out is astonishing to me. And I don't know what sort of pull she had. And he did say that she had some pull, but I mean, most of us can't even get child support. So, I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like most of us can't, I don't, and I mean, most women don't. And even if they're ordered to pay it, you have to be so far along, to even.
But should she be getting this money, Carla? Do you think it's fair?
I mean, I can't say whether or not it's fair for them and their situation. I don't know, but I feel like it's a whole hell of a lot, though, that she's gotten. Like, I do feel like that, especially to the testimony of what a great person he was, and the fact that there's no even like supervised visitation options or some sort of like therapy program to introduce them to each other because the daughter was ripped away at such a young age, or he's willing to be and wants to be a good dad, and he was the one being abused. There's absolutely zero reason why. But like I said earlier, I mean, just like men use and manipulate their children to gain control in relationships, so do women. And we see that every day too. Like women do the same thing. And it's difficult to watch because when you see someone like Tommy, and you and I got to spend a good amount of time with him and talking to him, and he is just
beautiful person. I love him. I love
been,
all of the guests this week. You guys are in my heart, but it's something about Tommy that was just different for me.
Yeah.
Where do we go from here, ladies? I mean, what do we do about the system? What do we do about these women that won't talk? What do we talk about? How do we encourage people watching right now what they should really do? Because
there's not enough prevention. There's tons and tons of awareness and advocacy and all of that stuff, but there's just not enough prevention. Instead of people saying, well, what did you do wrong to provoke so-and-so to do that to you? That's the wrong question to be asking.
Or I know them, they would never do that.
right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So there needs to be more prevention, and I'm really, I think very strongly on this. We need to incorporate EQ with IQ in schools. Do you guys know what EQ is?
no,
I know.
EQ is emotional quotient. So we go to school for IQ, intellectual quotient. We need to be incorporating emotional quotient, which is also known as emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
This needs to be embedded in childhood. Understand that they have a voice, that children have a voice, the resources that they can turn to, that needs to be provided for them. Not just, yes, IQ is super important. That needs to be in school stuff, but it needs to be incorporated with EQ. So,
Well,
what do you do when you have a child that has suffered some type of abuse and they're removed from the home and then they're just put into a foster home that is no better than
Right.
what they've just come out of? Often, I know that you talk about prevention. The only issue with prevention is you don't always know it's there until it's already happening. Whether it's physical or verbal or emotional, most of the times you don't know it's there. And so one of the people in the comments stated, the whole system needs an overhaul. We're so quick to tell someone to get out, to have a plan, but what about people who
Right.
there is no what is the plan? You know, because they either have people that I know them, they would never do that, or you need to stick it out, you need to work it out, or this is what, you know, this is generational, this is what they know. And so oftentimes we're coming and saying, have a plan, when really us that have survived and have gotten out, we're the ones who need to have the plan in place when they're ready to come out, because you can't help anyone until they're ready to be helped.
Right.
Exactly.
Good point.
Exactly.
And that's really the bottom line.
Yeah.
You know, and I think
If they know where to start, if they have that proper support and knowing where to start or who to turn to and who they can actually trust, then it's going to be hard
Right.
for people that are coming out of it to be able to overcome that stuff. Yes, they can overcome it. Yes, it may take time. And yes, we need to have those patience. But I completely agree with you. Like, the reason why it happened is because prevention wasn't put in place. But there needs to be more of that prevention so people understand what red flags to look for.
How do you prevent something before it happens that you don't know if it's going to happen?
Well,
How do
and
you-
that's the
I
thing.
mean,
Like,
there are certain things, but when you talk about domestic violence or abuse, what is the prevention measure before it happens?
and I think that being able to instill that information with people at a younger age, so that way it's something that is embedded in them and something that's practiced on a regular basis, so that way they don't become, so to speak, a pushover, or like tolerating something that is generational, or being able to use their voice and speak up when that time is needed, so that way they don't endure. But again, that's something that has to be practiced. It's like, for
Just
instance,
like
for
people
me,
are born bad, people are born that don't have the voice to
that's
speak.
a whole other chemistry, that a chemical imbalance that may not necessarily have anything to do with emotional intelligence, but more of the chemical imbalance of a being, of someone inside them. That's
So it sounds like
something that has to deal with that has that training.
So it
So-
sounds to me like what we have to do is we have to get our kids at an early age and teach them to love themselves, so that whenever something comes up, whether it's a bully at school, whether it's a bully boyfriend, bully mom, they will be triggered by what they've learned at a young age. But I think I understand where you're coming from too, Simonia, because you're saying, listen, you don't know when that abuse is going to come. And if they're not prepared, it's hard to prevent it. So
can
And
happen to
here's
anybody.
the other thing for me, having a voice, it didn't matter. I can run down 100 things for you, and I've always had a voice. I was born with a voice. It did not stop me from being molested. It did not stop me from being raped. It did not stop me from it did not stop things from happening to me or those things affecting me. And I have a voice. And at the same time, I know people who they're more meek and more mild-mannered, and they were just born that way. And self-love prevents you from staying in things when you become an adult. But self-love does not prevent you from going through things as a child. You can have the most nurturing household, and if something happens outside, a lot of times when you think about predators, one of the ways that they get their victims is they say, I'm going to kill your mom, or I'm going to kill your dad. And that very love that you're talking about is what protects the perpetrator. Because now all that child can think about is how much they love that parent, and they don't want that parent to hurt. And Tessa, I'm not, downing or knocking what you're saying. I'm just saying, from the way that I see it, you don't know until it happens. And even after it happens, it's a whole process to begin to heal from that. And even healing doesn't mean that you're ever over it. It just means that you have found an effective way to cope and deal, because there's always that trigger there that if someone says the wrong thing
Yes.
or touches you the wrong
Yes.
way or
Yes.
yells the wrong way, it
Yes.
triggers what you thought you were
Amen.
healed from.
Amen.
So healing is not about, we tell people healing like you're getting over it, but you're not getting over it. You're finding a productive way to deal with it,
Right.
a productive way to press forward and to help someone else learn to press forward.
Simonia, let me ask you a question. Have you forgiven the person who molested you?
I did after he died, and I was 8. The person that I struggle to forgive is his wife, who I told, and she did nothing. And I didn't tell anyone else. I told it in my poetry, but I didn't tell my mother until how old was I when my grandmother died? I was 24. He died 2 days before my grandmother. And
Wow.
when it was my aunt's husband's father. So technically my aunt's father-in-law. And I carried the burden of not wanting to rip up the family, because my aunt would have been put in a position, she either had to choose her husband's family or she had to choose her blood family. But it took a lot for me to forgive him, because I remember when my mother told me he died, I said, good, I hope he suffered. That was the first thing out of my mouth. But at
I can
24,
understand that.
I wasn't thinking about forgiveness. By 24, I had also been raped. And so I didn't have any forgiveness in my heart. All I had was anger. And when people see me, if you ask most people one word that describes me, they're going to say strong. But they don't realize how much it takes or how many days you've put on this mask. How does the poem go? We wear the mask that grins and lies, pretending to be okay because I had a voice, but I had to forgive. I had to forgive because it was killing me. I was literally drowning inside, holding on to hate for someone else, for someone that wasn't even here anymore.
Right.
And I had to forgive and, trust that God dealt with him in his way. But I just don't believe that holding on to it helps us at all.
Of course.
I believe we have to
Let me ask you a question.
forgive in order to be able to press forward.
I'm going to take a poll now. Out of the 5 women that I'm looking at, how many of you suffered molestation from a family member or a friend of a family? How many of you suffered that?
Me.
Wow. 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 Does that, I mean, how are you able to move from that and get into a healthy relationship? Is it difficult? Can you do it? Do you blame them? Are you funny around your husband? In other words, if your husband tries to touch you a certain way, because you talked about those triggers, Simonia. Are you triggered sometimes?
Well, for me, I'm not married anymore. My husband and I are divorced, but I will say when my husband and I were married, it always felt like he was fondling me. And that's what I like. Stop fondling me. Don't touch me. And I was very sexually reserved okay. So I'm just very sexually reserved. And honestly, this may be TMI, but I'm like one of the most transparent people. I didn't get a sex drive till I was almost 30, and I had 2 kids. I didn't like people commenting on my anatomy. Don't tell me my butt is big. I know. I don't need you to tell me. Don't touch me. I had a gentleman that kissed me one time. I used to flirt with him. I'm not gonna lie. I used to, and again, this is younger, 20-something-year-old Simonia. I used to flirt with him. And one night he walked me to my car and he just kissed me. I mean, tongue and all. And I was just like a deer in headlights. And I felt so violated. It almost felt like I had been raped all over again. And he was just responding to, you know, the flirtation, that this is what he thought I wanted. And it was a poet, and we were at poetry. And so he decided, well, he said that he wouldn't come back to poetry. He was willing to give up something that he loved to make me feel safe. But in all honesty, it was the fact of him taking that initial responsibility and him willing to give up something that was so important to him for me, that allowed me to be able to say, okay, I played a part in this, and I may have given the wrong signals. And we have to be able to take that responsibility as well, because I'm not gonna lie, I like to flirt. Just don't touch me, don't comment, don't try to sleep with me. Like, don't do anything past this moment. And part of that was the desire to be a woman and to feel like a woman. And the other part was that little girl that was trapped, that 8-year-old that was molested, that 17-year-old that was raped. Part of that was still her, you know, that didn't want to be touched. When I had my son, people say, she let somebody touch her long enough to get pregnant. Like, that was really the sentiment. Like, really? That's how sexually reserved I was. It was a common known thing. As an adult, my friends said, oh, we always thought you were a prude. I'm like, what? But it was true, you know.
Do you think that had anything to do with the demise of your marriage?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
There's a whole bunch of different things going on. That's another show, right?
Listen. Girl,
well,
bye.
Ladies, what do you guys think about what Simone is saying? I mean, you know, you went a little bit more detail about your molestation and rape. I mean, I can only imagine back to back those things happening. How does that feel hearing that, Tessa?
It's heartbreaking. That's always so hard to hear. And I mean, I can tell my story all day long and not feel pain, because I know I'm not there anymore. I'm not there. I'm done with that. I'm over that, and I've overcome that. But hearing other people's stories, I mean, that's never easy. It's hard, and but the thing, like, working in mental health and behavioral health, I've been able to see, like, the transformations of people. And I also then instill in them, saying, like, you're not there anymore. You're out of that. You've overcome it. You're not there anymore. And yes, what we went through is painful, or what you went through was painful, and it sucks. But you're not there anymore, and you're stronger. You're not living in the past, and you're not reliving what you went through, but you're growing from that. And that is something that you can instill and live within yourself, knowing that you've overcome something so incredibly painful.
Yes.
You've overcome that. And it was so incredibly painful. Yeah. But you're a stronger person coming out of that.
Before we get out of here, I want each of you to answer this question. When you look at yourself in the mirror, what do you see? Starting with you, Jennifer. What do you see now?
Resilience.
What'd you think of?
Resilience. That sums it up. I see so much resilience, and
that's your word. All right, Simonia, what about you?
Word.
What do you see?
Somebody that refuses to give up.
You go, girl. Yes. Delaney, what about you?
When I look in the mirror now, I see my broken and how it became beautiful.
I love it. That's the title of your book, right?
Yes. And I got the cover in the back. I need the in between.
I like that. I like that. Carla, what about you, dear?
I think when I look in the mirror and I see, motherhood and the desire to create structure and stability for my children. That's my ultimate goal in my life, is to just create that for my kids. And I mean, I think, and like resilience, like Jennifer said, I mean, I think that's a great freaking word for all of us.
I do too. What about you, Tessa? What about you, dear?
I really like this question. Okay, so there's kind of a backstory. So I used to look at myself in the mirror every single day, and I didn't see someone that was thriving. So I had made a vow to myself one day to look in the mirror every single day and say, I'm a survivor, I'm a survivor, I'm a survivor. And I would say that every single day, and then for a really long time. And then one day I started to say, I'm a survivor because. So I would have meaning behind it. And I would say, I'm a survivor today because I said no to somebody. Or I'm a survivor today because I finished 3 loads of laundry. Or I'm a survivor today because I allowed another positive person in my circle. Or I'm a survivor today because. So there was always a meaning. And then one day, and I did that forever. And then one day I looked in the mirror and I go, so this is what a survivor looks like. I am the face of a survivor.
Ooh,
And that is how I created my company, Face of a Survivor. So
girl, I got chills when you said that. Oh,
So
I did. That
that's
was
what-
powerful. That was powerful. Well, you
Thank
ladies
you.
are powerful. And you know, we're gonna get out of here. It's been a great week. I am so full. Every night after the broadcast, Carla and I sit here and just look at each other. Sometimes we just couldn't speak.
Yeah.
We would either be crying or just people. It was an emotional week for me. I learned a lot from you guys, everybody that's been a guest. If you're watching and you were a guest this week on the Ella Johnson Show, thank you. Everybody that tuned in, I just pray that God did give me a platform that can effect change in this area, because that is what it's all about. Every one of you are survivors, but you are so powerful. Let me tell you, I think you guys will reach people that a Bible will never reach, because you have lived it and you're here to tell it. So you know that saying they say, you're the I can't think of it right now. Y'all know what I'm talking about. It'll come to me.
But that's us.
Girl, I was getting ready to get real deep,
too.
but I lost it. I just got nothing else. But I just, I know what it is. You're the Bible that some people will never read.
Amen.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Amen.
And, I started this week with a quote that said, you can choose courage or you can choose comfort, but you can't choose both. That was the theme of this week's broadcast, because you ladies chose courage. Because to have courage, you had to become uncomfortable first.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm proud of each one of you. I'm proud of thank you for the prayer, Lainey. It was awesome. We're gonna bring you back on so we can talk. We're gonna have to do this again, Carla.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're gonna have to do it
I
again.
have something to say.
Really, really, really.
Who has something? Who said that? I have something to say.
I did.
I don't know, but I have
Yes.
to
Quiet one. I just wanted to. I had wrote something for you guys. For the people that are watching, because I think as victims or survivors, we know. But for those that may be still struggling, domestic violence is not only physical. It can be financial, emotional, educational, sexual, or any other type of abuse. Leaving a domestic violence is probably the hardest thing that you will ever do. It hurts. It can feel good. It can make you sad. It can be scary, and so many other things. Not everyone is going to believe you, and that's okay. You know what happened to you, and nobody can ever take that away. You're suffering from trauma, and you're also grieving the loss of a relationship, the loss of yourself, and all the other things that you're losing in the process. I want to say thank you to Ella, to Carla, and to everybody else that have allowed themselves to be vulnerable. You don't have a choice to be abused, but you do have a choice to recover.
Amen.
Ooh, yes. Yes.
Always.
Love it.
Always.
Who does anyone else have something to say? A poem? A song? Who wants to sing? Does someone want to sing?
We're gonna let you sing tonight.
Listen, do you want viewers or not? Because if you don't want viewers, I can sing for you now.
Yeah, we don't want to turn them off just yet.
Right. So,
Right.
but
Oh, that's funny,
I did
huh?
want to say this. You spoke earlier about a coloring book. I actually do have a Girl Me Too coloring book, but it
I
is
love
for adults. It's an adult coloring book, and it has a lot of sayings like, "Dear you, you will forever be connected to you. Therefore, embrace your greatness while not being afraid to correct your flaws." And so this book is filled with different activities and things like that. And even the Dear You, we have an actual whole book with a bunch of Dear Yous. But there's one thing that I just wanted to share for everyone that's listening. I have what I call a manifesting pot. It's a flower pot where you write down things and you put it in the dirt. I thought that it would be the perfect thing for women in a domestic violence situation who cannot do a vision board, but rather a vision pot. And so they write these things and they put them in the dirt. And then as they pour water on them to water the flower, it breaks down the paper and therefore breaks down what's in it. They don't have to worry about their abuser digging it up, finding out what it is that they're saying. And so it's a vision pot. And so it's something that I encourage all women to be able to do, just get your little flower pot, get you a pack of seeds or buy a flower, whatever, and then just write down what it is where you want your life to be. It doesn't matter where you are in this moment, write where you want it to be and bury it in the dirt and continue to water it. Because so often we feel buried. But as they say, they buried us, but nobody told them we were seeds.
Ooh, girl, yes. Ooh.
Oh, I love that.
You guys are starting something. We can go another hour now. I'm just saying. But I mean, it's Friday night, right?
Yes.
That is so awesome, Simonia and Jennifer. Thank you. Who else has something inspirational they want to say before we get out of here? We're all ears. Lainey, Carla, Tessa.
I can say something.
I do want to say something. I want to tell you, first of all, thank you so much for having me on, and you really don't even know me. All you that I'm now connected with, I'll be sending you friend requests. But I also want you to know that what I love, one thing God showed me about being broken is this. The world will throw broken things away because they can't be used anymore. It's no good. But you see, Jesus, he's not like that. He sees the beauty in your brokenness. He sees exquisite beauty in your brokenness, and he uses that, and it just draws others in. And for everything that you guys went through, I'm telling you, you've got a lot of courage. You're an overcomer, and you should be very proud of that. And I love that I was part of this, and you will be getting friend requests, so make sure you accept. Okay.
I'm sorry. One second
get you
before
on
you
Messenger
ladies
and
go.
say hello. No.
1 second before Carla and Tessa go. When Lainey talks about that, broken to be blessed. When Jesus fed the 5,000, he blessed the bread and then he broke it and then fed it to the multitudes. So at the end of the day, we may have been broken, but we were broken to be a blessing to the multitudes because the Bible says no weapon formed against us shall prosper. So the weapons formed, but we are able to use that to continue. Okay, I'm about to go on mute because she ain't got no audio.
Keep going.
I love it. I love
it. Girl, listen, this is beautiful. Because you ladies are, I'm full. Like, it's just, I'm just so blown at what God has done this week with everybody that's been here. We have to do it again, guys. I'll be back next week, just 2 nights next week, not the whole week. Woo, this was hard. I couldn't even stop and get my nails done. Listen, but because I was just so excited about coming here every night to see you guys and to see what had to be said. And everybody just had something to say. Everybody. And at the end, when Simonia and Lainey, you guys were just kind of, and Jennifer, you guys just came in like, yeah, I'll come on. And we just kind of figured out what it was. God took it where it needed to go. We didn't plan any of this, what to say. We were just like, well, we'll just go with the flow. That's my saying. We'll just go with the flow. And God flowed it just right. Yeah. And I love it. And I love you guys. Does anyone have anything else to say before we get out of here? No? Wonderful. Well, thank you all so much for tuning in from YouTube and Facebook. I'll be back next Wednesday for an incredible story, a 2-night series story. You don't want to miss this one. You talk about abuse, incest, rape, sex trafficking, all in one story. That's coming up next Wednesday and Thursday. Yes, they're coming up next. And you set that up too.
I know,
Jennifer. Huh?
I know she's always setting everything up.
She does. She really has. She's my girl. I love you, Jennifer. You know, because you just out of your kindness, you were just sending people to me like back to back. She's like, oh, I'm going to have you busy for the whole year, girl. I'm like, I see, you know, but they were all.
I've had a lot of great people come into my life, and you know, I think some of them are very inspirational and need to be heard.
Well, y'all got to tune into this one, because let me tell you, when she told me her story, I was crying. They were comforting me. They were telling me, Ella, it's gonna be okay. That's how this story has affected me. So you guys want to tune in for this one. And it was their pain that brought them together. They both had their own things going on. She was being hurt on one spectrum, he was being hurt way at the other, and they met in the middle and they became husband and wife. Their brokenness brought them together. It's a beautiful story. I mean, just the part where she was talking about how her grandmother molested her. That's just a tidbit of her story. You guys got to tune in, and you all have to tune in next Wednesday, Thursday, right here on YouTube and Facebook Live. With everything, guys, have a great weekend. I love you all so much, and we'll see you next time right here on the Ella Johnson Show.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye, guys.